I'm Jeremy. Today's day 277 of reading. Today we're reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Let's get started. We're on page 387. Let's go. 277 is the date. The bell rang, and there was the usual scuffle of activity as everyone packed their bags and swung them onto their shoulders. Professor McGonagall called above the noise. "Potter, a word, if you please." Assuming this had something to do with his headless rubber haddock, Harry proceeded gloomily to the teacher's desk. Professor McGonagall waited until the rest of the class had gone, and then said, "Potter, the champions and their partners." "What partners?" said Harry. Professor McGonagall looked suspiciously at him, as though she thought he was trying to be funny. "Your partners for the Yule Ball, Potter," she said coldly. "Your dance partners." Harry's inside seemed to curl up and shrivel. "Dance partners?" He felt himself going red. "I don't dance," he said quickly. "Oh, yes, you do," said Professor McGonagall irritably. "That is what I'm telling you. Traditionally, the champions and their partners open the ball." Harry had a sudden mental image of himself in the top hat and tails, accompanied by a girl in the sort of frilly dress Aunt Petunia always wore to Uncle Vernon's work parties. "I'm not dancing," he said. "It is traditional," said Professor McGonagall firmly. "You are a Hogwarts champion, and you will do what is expected of you as a representative of the school. So make sure you get yourself a partner, Potter." "But I don't—" "You heard me, Potter," said Professor McGonagall in a very final sort of way. A week ago, Harry would have said finding a partner for a dance would be a cinch compared to taking on a Hungarian horntail. But not that he had done the latter, and he was facing the prospect of asking a girl to the ball, he thought he'd rather have another round with the dragon. Harry had never known so many people to put their names down to stay at Hogwarts for Christmas. He always did, of course, because their alternative was usually going back to Privet Drive. But he had always been very much in the minority before now. This year, however, everyone in the fourth year and above seemed to be staying, and they all seemed to Harry to be obsessed with the coming ball. At least, all the girls were. It was amazing how many girls Hogwarts suddenly seemed to hold. He had never quite noticed that before. Girls giggling and whispering in the corridors. Girls shrieking with laughter as boys passed them. Girls excitedly comparing notes on what they were going to wear on Christmas night. "Why do they have to move in packs?" Harry asked Ron as a dozen or so girls walked past them, sniggering and staring at Harry. "How are you supposed to get one on their own to ask them?" "Lasso one?" Ron suggested. "Got any ideas on who you're going to try?" Harry didn't answer. He knew perfectly well whom he wanted to invite. He'd like to ask, but working up the nerve was something else. Cho was a year older than he was. She was very pretty, she was a very good Quidditch player, and she was also very popular. Ron seemed to know what was going on inside Harry's head. "Listen, you're not the only one going to have any trouble. You're a champion. You've literally just beaten a Hungarian horntail. I bet they'll be queuing up to go with you." In tribute to their recent repaired friendship, Ron had kept the bitterness in his voice to a bare minimum. Moreover, to Harry's amazement, he turned out to be quite right. A curly-haired third-year Hufflepuff girl to whom Harry had never spoken in his life asked him to go to the ball with her the very next day. Harry was so taken aback that he said no before he'd even stopped to consider the matter. The girl walked off looking rather hurt. Harry had to endure Dean Seamus and Ron's taunt about her all the way through History of Magic. The following day, 2 more girls asked him, a second year, and, to his horror, a fifth year who looked as though she might as well knock him out if he refused. "She was quite good-looking," said Ron fairly, after he'd stopped laughing. "She was a foot taller than me," said Harry, still unnerved. "Imagine what I'd look like trying to dance with her." Hermione's words about Krum kept coming back to him. They only like him because he's famous. Harry doubted very much if any of the girls who had asked to be his partner so far would have wanted to go to the ball with him if he hadn't been a school champion. Then he wondered if this would bother him if Cho asked him. On the whole, Harry had to admit that even with the embarrassing prospect of opening the ball before him, life had definitely improved since he had got into the first task. He wasn't attracting nearly as much unpleasantness in the critters anymore, which he suspected had a lot to do with Cedric. He had an idea Cedric might have told the Hufflepuffs to leave Harry alone. In gratitude for Harry's tip-off about the dragons, there seemed to be fewer support Cedric Diggory badges around too. Draco Malfoy, of course, was still quoting Rita Skeeter's article to him at every possible opportunity, but he was getting fewer and fewer laughs out of it. And just to heighten Harry's feeling of well-being, no story about Hagrid had appeared in the Daily Prophet. She didn't seem very interested in magical creatures, to tell you the truth, Hagrid said, when Harry, Ron, and Hermione asked him how his interview with Rita Skeeter had gone during the last Care of Magical Creatures class. She just... As Rita had gone during the care lesson of the term. To their very great relief, Hagrid had given up on direct contact with the Scroots now, and they were merely sheltering behind his cabin today, sitting at a trestle table and preparing a fresh selection of food with which to tempt the Scroots. She just wanted me to talk about you, Harry, Hagrid continued in a low voice. Well, I told her we'd been friends since I went to fetch you for the Dursleys. Never had to tell him off in 4 years, she said. Never played you up in lesson, has he? I told her no, and she didn't seem happy at all. You'd think she wanted me to say you were horrible, Harry. Of course she did, said Harry, throwing lumps of dragon liver into a large metal bowl and picking up his knife to cut some more. She can't keep writing about a tragic little hero I am. It'll get boring. She wants a new angle, Hagrid, said Ron wisely as she shelled salamander eggs. You were supposed to say Harry's a mad delinquent. But he's not, said Hagrid, genuinely shocked. She should have interviewed Snape, said Harry grimly. He'd give her the goods on me any day. Potter has been crossing lines ever since he first arrived in the school. Said that, did he? Said Hagrid, while Ron and Hermione laughed. Well, you might have been a few rules, Harry, but you're all right, really, aren't you? Cheers, Hagrid, said Harry, grinning. You coming to this ball thing on Christmas Day, Hagrid? Said Ron. Though I might look in on it, yeah, said Hagrid gruffly. Should be a good do, I reckon. You'll be opening the dancing, won't you, Harry? Who are you taking? No one yet, said Harry, feeling himself going red again. Hagrid did not pursue the subject. The last week of term had become increasingly boisterous as it progressed. Rumors about the Yule Ball were flying everywhere, though Harry didn't believe half of them. For instance, that Dumbledore had bought 800 barrels of mulled mead from Madame Rosmerta. It seemed to be a fact, however, that he had booked the Weird Sisters. Exactly who or what the Weird Sisters were, Harry did not know, never having access to a wizard's wireless, but he deduced from the wild excitement of those who had grown up listening to WWN, Wizarding Wireless Network, that they were a very famous musical group. Some of the teachers, like Professor Flitwick, gave up trying to teach them much when their minds were so clearly elsewhere. He allowed them to play games in his lessons on Wednesday and spent most of it talking to Harry about the perfect summoning charm. Thank you, everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to read page 392. Yeah, I had to end a bit early. Not enough time. Peace out.